Hello and welcome to You Sew You. This is my channel all about all the crafty bits and pieces I get up to. I knit, I sew, I crochet, I spin on a drop spindle, I'm learning to weave, and there are various other bits and pieces that I dabble in from time to time. And this is my series of short videos all about spinning on a drop spindle. So welcome back to any returning viewers and any new viewers, welcome. This is my, as I say, short series of videos on how to spin on a drop spindle, so if you haven't already seen the earlier videos, you may want to go back and have a look at them, unless you are specifically looking for what to do once you have finished spinning on your spindle. We've already looked at how to get started spinning, how to deal with the fleece of the types that you might get as a beginner. And we've also looked at spinning up singles and plying. So today we're going to look at winding off the yarn from the spindle, ready to soak it and set the twist, so that it becomes a yarn that we can use for spinning and weaving and crocheting and all that other wonderful fibre-y goodness. So I have here a spindle full of 100 grams of Clara Rose Crafts Rolags in the St Patrick's Day colourway. There's some sari silk in here, there's some merino in here. I have done ply on the fly with this one. I will do a video on ply on the fly at some point. I haven't done yet, but I will do. It's a chain ply technique that you do as you are going, so that once you've finished spinning your singles effectively, you've also plied it. Which is quite a nice effect. There are some downsides to it. The plying that we looked at in the previous video, where we were plying singles together in a more sort of traditional manner, will even out any inconsistencies in your spin. Chain plying won't. It will highlight them because of the way that it works, but I'll go into that more when I do the video on chain plying and ply on the fly. So we have our spindle of spun yarn. We then also need two more items. We need a lazy Kate or a spindle Kate, and we need something called a niddy noddy, which is the best named bit of crafting equipment ever. It's a fantastic name, I love it. So this is my spindle Kate. It's not high tech, I just have a box with some holes in the end. You can buy things, put your spindles on. I choose to use this because budget. I will eventually get something a little bit sturdier because the cats do tend to chew on this. So we need this, and we need our niddy noddy. I did pay out for a proper niddy noddy. If you are any sort of technically minded with woodwork, or if you have some plastic piping around, you could absolutely make one of these without too much hassle. The important thing is that they are this sort of wonky eye shape, and that you know the length of wrap that you can get around it. And I'll show you how we wrap it, so you'll see what I mean by the length that we need. I know that this is a 1.5 metre niddy noddy. It's an Ashford one, there's their logo. Not for any particular reason other than that is what my spinning and weaving shop stocks. So that's what I went with. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spindle Kate and I'm going to insert my spindle. So I'm going to put one end through that hole, and the other end comes out of that hole. And then in here, my spindle Kate can rotate relatively freely. I'm going to find the end of my yarn and pull it up, and I'm going to put the spindle Kate on the floor. I actually hold it between my feet because obviously being a cardboard box, it doesn't have much weight to it, so it will move around a bit. Then I'm going to take my niddy noddy and I'm going to wrap one end around the top. Just hold it in place for a moment whilst I get the first wrap on. You might want to do a slip knot. We then go down to the bottom, up to the top, down to the bottom, up to the top, and that's now going to hold the first wrap in place. So that's one wrap. So that's the distance you need to know. Down to the bottom, to the top. Down to the bottom, up 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 to the top. To the bottom, up to the top, and so on until you have got all of your yarn off your spindle and onto the niddy noddy. And you can get into quite a rhythm with this once you get used to it. It didn't take me long at all to get quite, well, relatively speedy at doing this. I'm trying to make sure that the yarn is going on straight, that it's not kinking, but I'm not doing it too tight. There's tension on it, but it's not like overly stretched. So we do want a relatively accurate measurement. I mean, the yarn will change length, or may change length, when we set the twist, so I will probably need to do a proper measure, like a second measure. But this will give you a rough idea of your distance. It's not going to change massively with this sort of blend with the silk in it. That's going to relatively hold its length. Okay, so there we have a full niddy noddy. The next thing I am going to do is I'm going to take some yarn that I've already got. So this, I'd like to use a contrasting colour. This is just an acrylic that I've got left over from some baby knits. But I like to use a contrasting colour so that I can see where this yarn is on my finished skein. And I'm going to cut off 3 lengths of it. That sort of length will do. So there we have some little bits of yarn. I'm going to take my niddy noddy and I'm going to go to one of these bundles. I'm going to put my fingers through the middle to split it into 2 sections. Take one of my lengths of yarn and put it through the middle. Wrap it around one side, through the middle again, and out the other side. So it's making a figure of 8. And then I'm going to tie it off. You all know how to tie a knot, so I'm not going to show this too closely. It doesn't matter particularly what sort of knot you do. The point of this is to keep your skein relatively tangle free when you soak it. The aim is to stop it tangling at all. So I've got that one on. I'm going to put 2 more on. So I'm going to put one on over here on this bundle. In the same way, through the middle. Wrap it through again. And tie a knot. And I'll put a 3rd one sort of in the middle on here. It doesn't matter massively where you put them, just spread them out around your skein. You don't want them all in the same place because then the rest of the skein will tangle. It's the same way that indie dyers tie their yarn up. So if you've ever bought a hand dyed skein, or even a commercial yarn that's sold in a skein, you are likely to have seen it tied in a very similar manner. Sometimes people use the yarn from the skein itself, sometimes they use a contrasting one. So say I like to use a contrasting one just because it helps me to see where it is when I come to release it. So there we go, it's all tied up. The only other thing I need to do before I take this off the niddy noddy is actually count how many times I've wrapped around. So I'm going to count all of the strands here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like you don't know how to count, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. So 52 wraps. It's a 1.5 metre niddy noddy. I'll put the yard equivalent up here. So that gives me 52 and 26, 78 metres, roughly, in my 100 gram spinning. It's a very sort of thick and thin yarn. It's not a lightweight yarn, so that's not a surprise. I will double check the measurements once I have soaked it. So now I'm going to take it off the niddy noddy. It's very simple. You just put it off. This is where the shape of the niddy noddy comes in handy with these curved ends on it. So if you are making your own, do think about how you're going to get your yarn off. So I now have my yarn. It's got a bit of twist, a little lively twist going on in there, but not massive. It's relatively balanced for the amount of spinning time that I've had. I do quite often get a bit of over twist in my yarns at the moment, but that's because I haven't been spinning for long. And actually that's not a massive issue because we're going to soak it. That's going to take some of it out anyway. So I'm going to pull it taut. You can see my ends of my skein just sort of flying free. Sometimes I try and catch them in the ties, but I obviously haven't done this time. And I'm just going to twist it up for now. What I will actually need to do with this is I will need to soak it just like you would if you're blocking your knitwear, and then hang it up. I hang mine on a hanger over the shower because then I can keep it away from the cats. And if there's a bit of excess twist in it once it's soaked, I'll put a couple of other hangers on the bottom to weight it down and straighten it out a bit, get rid of some of that excess twist. And then I'll retwist it up into a skein like this once it's dried. The key thing is to make sure that it is absolutely, totally, 100% dry before you wrap it back up in here. But there we go, that's what we do with our spindles once they are full of yarn and all spun up. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Do keep an eye out for the chain ply and ply on the fly videos that will be coming at some point. Don't know when, as I don't have any chain plying and ply on the fly projects in mind at the moment. For the fibres that I've got to spin up at the moment, I'm looking at doing more of a standard 2-ply, and chain ply will give you 3-ply. So that's that. So I hope it was useful. Do like and subscribe down below and share the word to any of your friends that are looking to start spinning on a drop spindle, and I will see you next time. Until then, bye bye for now.